Hi, welcome to PHP and MySQL video. We are going to start example 8. This is a list of suggestions how to use this video. The notes for this video can be found here at this URL, which is loaded here. Okay, just a general reminder, PHP is partly case sensitive, partly not. Like the variables are case sensitive, arrays are case sensitive, but functions are not, which is really confusing. So I just treat PHP as case sensitive, okay? Because half is, half not. All right, and then we are going to do PHP on database, okay? So if you look at a typical web application, say Amazon.com, even Google, the thing you just saw, this, let's say you search for something, you search for PHP in MySQL, which is a book, a lot of things will come out, right? All the books. The website will change. This website is just HTML document. If you look at the view source, they generate a bunch of HTML documents for you. Okay. And these are just the listing of the books. And obviously this thing come out almost instantaneously, almost immediately, and the website changes almost immediately. You click on the book, let's say our book, the page changes, the information, description changes, and it's the author name and how much it is all come out, okay? So this HTML page obviously is not created by humans because no human is that fast. This page is generated by some kind of server-side language, okay? And you can use PHP for it. I'm not sure. So let's say, okay, there are quite a few websites built with PHP, okay? Okay, and of course they cannot be totally PHP. They have to have other technologies that mix with it, but significant portion of it actually use PHP for their websites. Okay, and let's say I'm pretty sure Amazon is not using PHP, but let's say Amazon is using PHP. Okay, so what happens is when the user query, they send on the client side, they have a web browser. They send a query sent to the server. Okay, and then the server has a let's say it's Apache web server, just for the sake of discussion, right? Obviously, I do not know what server they use for Amazon. Let's say they use Apache with PHP on it, and when your query reach them, they are not going to. They don't have a human changing the web page. So what they do is they actually go to a database. Okay, let's say it's a MySQL database. They run a query, and then the query returns the data, and then this page is updated, and then send the information back to the client. Okay. So right now, what we are going to do is in example 8, we are going to create a database and save into our database server. Okay, and then we are going to connect to it, and then when we are going to do something with it. Okay, just like a very simple server-side application. All right. Okay, the first thing you need to do is you need to start your Apache and start your MySQL. The second thing you need to do is go to PHP MyAdmin. And remember the password is Harry and the username is Harry and password is elbow monkey. So click on that. Okay. And we are going to create a database. So the easiest way to create is to use SQL statements. Okay. So you can also do an import a text file, which has the same effect. So let's say I just want to run the SQL statement here, and before we do anything, let us create a folder for eg008. Okay, so go to your C drive, temp myPHP. We are going to create a new folder called eg008. And of course, if you go to localhost, myPHP, eg008, you have nothing inside. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is, okay, one thing is you should never put your SQL file onto a web server, okay? Because if you put your SQL file on a web server, everybody in the world may be able to get to it, and then they know what your website is about, and they can find ways to put holes to it and get into your website or get into your database. Okay, you should never put a SQL file here. But I'm just doing an exercise, so I'm just going to put my SQL file here, okay? Just for demonstration purposes, but don't do that in real life. So I'm going to save this file into C drive. C drive, temp, myPHP, eg008, and I'm going to save eg008 createdb.txt here. And a good practice would be to rename this to SQL because it's an SQL file. And open this in Notepad++ to look at what is inside. So this is a simple example. Again, I assume that you know SQL statements, so I'm not going to explain it here. So drop a database if Kung Fu Panda shop exists. Okay, if it doesn't exist, after you dropped, create a Kung Fu Panda shop and create two tables. One is categories. Okay, one is called products. And these are the category ID, category name, and all the things inside. Is a foreign key referencing one-to-many relationship. And that relationship can be shown in the EL diagram here. Okay. One category has many products linked by the category ID. All right. And we insert 3 records into categories table, and we insert 11 records into the products table. And finally, we create a user called web user. The password for web user is cfu88. And we grant only 4 privileges. Remember, when we create a super user, we grant all the privileges, we grant options. You don't want to do that for a web user because if users have all the rights over the internet, over the website, they can do a lot of things. Okay, so you only allow the web user to do select, insert, delete, update to only this database, and so on and so forth. Okay, there are 2 ways to run this. One way is to do an import. So you can go in here and do an import. Browse for the file. ctemp, myPHP, eg008. This is the file. Open. And say import. Okay, so they will give you things, and all the commands are executed, although they give you some error message like I don't like you not selecting a database. So once that is done, 2 things happen. One thing is One thing is on the left side, Kung Fu Panda Shop database is created. It has two tables. One is called the products table with these records that inserted. One is the data categories table with this record inserted. Okay, and if you describe them, you can see the structure and structure. Okay. All right. Another thing that happened is in the users, if you go to home, under user accounts, a new user is created called web user. If you click on a web user, you realize the web user does not have global privilege, but it has one database privilege to the Kung Fu Panda shop. Okay. So let's say you make a mistake and you want to get rid of it. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the web user and we are going to get rid of the Kung Fu Panda shop. And then we are going to do the same thing. Instead of import, we're going to do the same thing, create database and user using SQL. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to get rid of the web user. So you go to user accounts, click on the web user and say, I want to remove selected user accounts. Okay. And then the web user is gone. Okay. The second thing is you want to delete the Kung Fu Panda shop. So you go to home. You can actually come here and do a delete, but we know SQL statement, so we can just go to home and go to SQL and say, I just want to drop the database. You Control C to copy, Control V to paste, and then say go. And then the database is dropped here. Okay. So now you can, so we know how to do an import, we know how to do a delete user accounts, we know how to do a delete database. Now let's say I want to create a database, but I don't want to do an import. You can actually go to the SQL here and just copy everything here. Control C to copy. Control V to paste. And then you click on go. Exactly the same thing happens. Okay, they give you some error message, say, I don't like you not selecting database and all the good stuff, but everything is executed perfect. So now, if you go to home, click on that or reload, Kung Fu Panda shop appears. And under user accounts, you have your web user. It's not global, but it has a database privilege. Okay, and then your categories is here and products is here. So I show you two ways of creating the database. And we're going to use this database throughout. It's a very simple database, only two tables. We're going to use this database throughout the rest of the videos for the rest of the examples 8 and 9 and 10. Okay. All right. The video is getting too long. That's a good place to stop. Thanks for watching and see you soon. Bye.